Chapter 14. When I finally graduated from high school, it was the happiest day of my life. At last, an escape from the family that hated me and the home that served no purpose to me other than furthering my distress. I had planned to immediately move on campus to start summer school and had already secured a job at a local newspaper part-time to earn some running money. My mother showed up at the ceremony, most likely buzzing off of some cocktail to help her muster enough fake proudness to get through it all. Sean sat next to her with a bored look on his face. They sat close to the stage, and I could see the contempt on their faces. As I got up to give my speech, a fake, broad smile cracked my mother's face. Sean sat up straight, but still looked bored. This would be my glorious send-off to this wretched place. I scanned the audience and made the mental note of how much better I was than all of them. Older people still stuck in this rotten town like my mother, younger adults who had no future like my brother, and all the teen and adolescents that I was smarter than. Here, I was above them all, looking down upon the lot. I assumed my speech was filled with words too big for them to comprehend. Sad, silly people. I don't remember exactly the words of my speech. I had written it down, but had long since discarded it. It was this enormous lecture on how to be a good person, how to contribute to the world, how to make your mark. I felt like I was talking down to all the people in the auditorium as I rambled on and on about what you should do with your life. Blah, 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 importance of family. Blah, 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 the golden rule. Blah, 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 do good. Blah, 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 heal the world. How did I manage to leave all of what I was saying behind and embody a completely different entity of malice and agitation, only to morph into this girl on the most confusing spiritual journey? It wasn't just me that had changed, though. My mother and brother transformed dramatically. We were a family of butterflies. And here we were in cohabitation of roughly the same space, closer than ever, completely changed by our own individual experiences, yet growing together as a family. The rest of February went by in such an uneventful manner, I was beginning to think that I dreamed my spirit guide's warnings to me all up. I opened up to Izzy about it, but she assured me that it did not mean it was supposed to happen right away. Time is something that was made up by humans. We age, we grow, but time should be considered in the passing of seasons, day, night, not our own concept of hours, weeks, months. Just be prepared. I was halfway done with my book. I still did not have a title for it. I had hit a block. I did not know how to continue. I was preparing for impending doom. I could not eat or sleep. My family was starting to get worried. On a gloomy, windy day, the first week of March, I was sitting on my bed staring at the words Chapter 14 and a blinking cursor. Nothing else coming to me. This very moment in my life was exactly where I was in my novel. I couldn't predict the future. A soft knock sounded at my bedroom door, and I gave a quiet, "Yes?" Mother appeared as she opened the door gently. "May I come in?" she asked politely. "Sure," was my quick response. She sat down on the edge of my bed and faced me. "We are all worried about you, Kat," she began. She looked at me with such concern that I hardly recognized my mother. She had never gone out of her way to open up the depths of a heartfelt conversation before. "When your brother and I first moved here, we both had hit rock bottom. I was drinking heavily, and he was a mass of anger from being rejected. We decided to throw logic completely out the window, pack up what we could into a tiny moving truck, and just drive. We let our intuition that was sore underneath the exterior of our broken hearts guide us." She had this far-off look in her eyes. My mother was wise. Somehow, we drove until we ended up parked right out front of the community center. Alan opened the door, greeted us, invited us to join the yoga class that he was getting ready to teach, and our lives have never been the same since. I had always been curious about how exactly they ended up here, of all places. How can you trust your intuition so much to be that spot on? It baffled me. I fear these emotions that you have circling inside you are just the tip. Deep down, something is rumbling and is about to erupt. We are just going to have to surround you with extra love and light from now on. She smiled at me. Did Alan change you this much? I asked the bold question. A pained look came across her face as she remembered the past, the fighting, the disappointed resentment she constantly felt, and the disconnection from us all. Yes, I feel he was a huge part of it. Daring to be myself and not a version of what others expected me to be was the biggest part. I left my entire life behind to grow in a completely different way, and grow I did. She stared off into space for a moment before turning back to me. Kat, I want to apologize to you for the way I treated you as a child. I should have only placed the blame on myself if I was not happy with my life, and never you. We are all responsible for our own happiness, she confessed. I forgive you, Mother. I know now that everything happened to shape and mold me in the way I needed to be. I don't hold any animosity toward you. The past is over, I shrugged. That's right. We can never go back to the past and change anything, so why worry? I just wanted you to see that I am a completely different person right now. I'm a completely different mother, and I am always here for you. She reached out and grabbed my hand. I know you are completely different. I noticed the first second I stepped foot in this house. I am just happy to be a part of a family now. I held on to her hand. Spiritual awakenings are not for the faint of heart. Everything up to now has made you stronger. If you need to rest up and focus yourself, do what feels right. I am not here to give you deadlines, make you feel bad for living here, or demand that you owe me a thing. You are here to heal, to grow, and to center yourself in a loving environment free from expectations. She smiled again and stood up. Dinner should be ready now. Are you hungry? She asked. I followed her downstairs to see Sean and Alan setting the table. I was met with concerned faces as I sat down in the chair Alan had pulled out for me. Before we began eating, Alan had an announcement to make. Kat, I have a friend in the city that wants to read your book when you're finished, he said. Oh, well, sure. I smiled and nodded my head. He is a publisher. He wants to publish you, he said, grinning from ear to ear. I sat there with my mouth hanging open, not knowing what to say. This is your mission, Kat, Sean smiled. See how well it all works out? Mother said as the food began being passed around. Now I really couldn't eat. I marveled at just how I got to that point in my life. All my life had prepared me for this moment, so if I was fulfilling my mission, then why did I have to suffer further? This is what I was put here on this planet to do. I was to write and inspire others with my story, so I was on the correct path, right? I followed the rules. I had not been cruel to anyone. I repaired the relationships with my family. I apologized to Martin. I made new friends. I was helping others in their missions. So karma should be working in my favor now. I had already suffered traumatically. I lost my identity. That was my major upset. That was what I had to go through in order to fulfill this mission. So I was fine. I must have imagined the whole spirit guide warning me. No one else was forecasting doom and gloom. Even Izzy said time was not a factor, so maybe my spirit guide was merely late in the warning. Maybe the spirit guide was there to throw some confusion in the mix, so I would be constantly on my toes. Or maybe it was me and the lack of oxygen at these altitudes. I just hallucinated, right? I had it all going for me now. My book was halfway done. I had a publisher ready to go. I had an amazing family, fantastic friends, a beautiful place to call home. Now all I had to do was to wait for my soulmate to show up, and then my next mission would evolve. It was all perfect. It was all falling into place. My heart was home and love was there. I was driving myself mad with the anticipation of something bad happening. All of a sudden, I got incredibly hungry, and my stomach rumbled. As I piled food onto my plate, I released all tension and foreboding gloom. The energy in the room settled, and it was noticed immediately by everyone. I released the anxiety and prepared myself for the good that was about to enter my life. I was ready to receive. I just wished I had not received the tragedy the very next day.